Hey there, everybody, and welcome to my brand new podcast, Hiring and Inspiring. This is episode number 1, the very first episode. So I'm kicking this off today. Now, this is a project that I have been thinking about doing for quite some time. It's been bubbling away in the sort of back of my mind for ages. And I thought, as we kick off the new year, no better time than the present to actually get on and do it. So here we are. Now, as this is the first episode, it makes sense to tell you maybe a bit more about what I'm hoping to achieve with this podcast, where I hope it to go, and the kind of stuff to expect from it. So I work in recruitment, I work in sales, I have done for many years. I'm lucky enough to be very passionate about what I do and really enjoy my job. So I thought, why not make a show where I talk all things recruitment, talk all things sales, talk all things leadership, business, personal development, the things that I'm sort of passionate about, and pretty much everything in between. Now, my goal is to get a bunch of people from my network, people that I know, onto this platform, and have a bit of a chat to them, have a bit of an interview with them, and get some wisdom from them that firstly I can learn from, and then secondly they can impart to anyone who chooses to listen to this. So that's sort of where I'm hoping to go with this show. Second thing, as this is the first episode, maybe a bit of background on myself. I am 29 years old. I live in Melbourne, Australia. I have lived in Australia for 5.5 years now. You may tell from the accent, originally from the UK. As I said at the start, I work in recruitment. I work for a company called BMS Performance. I've worked for these guys in total for 7 years now, recruiting sales professionals nationally across Australia. So that's just a little bit of background on me. This first episode, to sort of kick things off, I was hoping to have a bit of a solo spiel to give you a bit of a flavour of the sort of things I'm going to be talking about. Now, in this episode, as it's the start of the year, I'm going to talk about some trends, some predictions that I see, and just the general recruitment marketplace sort of taking place. So not necessarily focused on any industry or any sort of roles, just a general recruitment prediction that I see. So first one, this is around maybe the sort of the economy and the general sort of market conditions. Now, I predict that the general job market will slow down. Now, this isn't anything groundbreaking, because if you've been following any sort of news, the economy has become sort of increasingly unstable and uncertain. And whenever this happens, businesses tend to sort of tighten their belts, which means hiring can be put on hold, or hiring freezes can come into place, and just that general sort of gung-ho approach to recruitment that we've seen for the last couple of years, whereby companies are really, especially 2021, 22, the bounce back from the pandemic, where companies were, it was sort of boom times, really looking to actively hire and recruit for a ton of roles. I think that is going to slow down as the economy sort of cools off. I don't think it's going to fall off a cliff like we saw, say, in the pandemic, in that sort of that challenging time. But it was, I think this year is just going to be a gradual sort of economic slowdown and a gradual sort of decrease in the volume of jobs and vacancies that are out there. So what the sort of knock-on, I guess, effect of this is on recruiters, say like myself, is you probably have to sharpen your business development and sort of client engagement skills. So whereby in the last few years you had the luxury of jobs and clients and customers just sort of rolling in because everyone's hiring and no one can find any candidates, and it's very sort of easy to get business. This will flip, and you'll have to sharpen your sort of business development skills, and you'll have to get back on the phones and back in sort of prospecting mode to find and also look to retain the existing business you have. So, my advice is double down on existing relationships. Just so, put a fence around that. Make sure all your existing accounts and all your existing customers, you are super close with them. Have you met them recently? Have you gone through what their plans are looking like for the rest of the year? Have you really tried to add some value? So put a fence around your existing customers and then sharpen those new business tools and get out there and prospect and hunt for some new customers, because you're going to need it. Because not all of your customers that you've had over the last few years will be quite in such growth modes. Sorry, went off on a bit on a tangent there in the general sort of economic conditions, but hopefully you see where I was going. Next point is around sort of great, the resignation, which we saw mainly last year. I think this will still sort of continue in terms of, and this contradicts the first point a little bit, but as the sort of cost of living and the general rising cost of living continue, people will continue to look to move around and make moves if employees haven't necessarily lined up their salaries in line with the rising cost of living. That people may pivot to other industries or pivot to different roles to keep up with those rising cost of living. So the second trend is, I think there will still be candidates making a move, and that great resignation is still set to continue. Third point. Quick drink here. Third point is around a sort of a generational shift that I think will really come into effect this year. So the trend here is that the old sort of baby boomer generation is set to really exit the workforce, in its droves. Sort of going into retirement or going to do other things. And millennials are now set to make up the largest sort of working cohort, so to speak. So I think they are set to overtake the amount of Gen X in terms of just numbers in the global workforce. And as they do this, and as sort of baby boomers exit the workforce, Gen Z, the younger generation, after millennials, i.e. people sort of 25 and under, are starting to really enter and make and stamp their foot on the sort of global workforce. So impacts of this is, the sort of long story short, hiring market is changing. This sort of gradual changing of the guard means, just in terms of recruitment anyway, it's just a sort of shift in terms of how you communicate your values, how you communicate your drivers. Companies need to adapt and make sure that their sort of employer brand is on point to capture younger generations' interests. So make sure you've got, and this is for recruitment companies, and this is for companies looking to hire direct. Make sure you've got everything in place to navigate this sort of changing of the guard, so you can come and really get ahead and make sure you have and hire the best people in 2023. Next sort of trend I think is around, and this one has sort of been happening for a while, but I think we're going to see it even more prominently as we enter 2023. Is recruitment is going to become even more like marketing focused. Now, the older school approaches of sort of posting job adverts, screening candidates in relation to who's applied, etc., is becoming increasingly outdated. So a whole recruitment marketing strategy is needed for both internal recruiters, talent acquisition teams, and also external people like myself, recruitment consultants. So what I mean by this is, do you have a sort of digital marketing strategy in place which will allow you to attract, engage and nurture and convince the best candidates out there that you are the best person to either assist them in their job search, or you are the best job out there or company out there that allows them to take the next step in their career, whatever that may be. So what do I mean by this? It's all about using the right sort of tools at your disposal. So social media, employer branding, SEO, your company website. Recruitment is all around marketing these days. It's all about what you're doing, what kind of content you're putting out there, what kind of media you're producing. In a nutshell, recruitment marketing shows job seekers sort of why they should be wanting to work for you, or why you are the best person to assist them with the job search. Like I said, this has been happening for a while. 2023, I think it's going to be even more important. Next thing, AI. Now, sure, if you've been anywhere recently, you've heard of ChatGPT. Now, it just feels like, no, there's always something coming along that claims to be the next big thing that's going to change the game, etc., etc. And it often doesn't live up to the hype. Could be wrong here. It just feels like this latest tool, ChatGPT, is a bit of a game changer. So, and I guess the sort of trend and how I see it impacting recruitment, it's hard for me to predict. I don't have a crystal ball, but because it just seems like a bit of a game changer, I think it's going to have an impact on, for the first time really, because AI it has been around for a little bit of time, but it does feel like this is the first time that a tool's come out that is actually going to change the average recruitment consultant's day-to-day life. There's a tool that is going to sort of get rid of outdated versions. So uses I've already found for it in my day-to-day job: writing adverts, writing emails, using it for brainstorming, i.e. competitors, market analysis, and this is literally in a week of me using it in my role. So I'm sure there's a ton more, and I'm sure it's going to be even more more sort of prevalent as the year progresses. I think it's not necessarily going to change the game completely. Like in a couple of weeks, it's not going to take over recruitment consultants' jobs. It's not going to make us outdated or anything like that. But it will be the first time that an AI tool is really going to come in and make a bit of a difference in the day-to-day life of a recruitment consultant. So I think that's probably enough of a spiel for me in terms of the types of recruitment or the sort of the trends that I'm sort of predicting to see this year. And it also gives you a bit of a flavour of the kind of things that I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to be talking on the show all things recruitment. I'm going to be talking all things sales. We might be diving into some more, sort of diving into a topic in a bit more detail on a further show. We're going to be talking to some probably. I'm going to try and get a bunch of sales leaders on there on this show. Sorry, to talk really in a bit more detail in terms of how they've progressed from individual sales reps through to sales leaders and managers, how they found that progression, how they found leading teams, their styles and what works for them, and hopefully share some nuggets that I can learn from and you might be able to as well. So that's giving you a bit of a flavour of what I'm going to be talking about. This is episode 1. I'd appreciate any kind of feedback on this. And as I say, this is just to really get the ball moving and to get this Hiring and Inspiring podcast off the ground. So if you did listen, thank you very much. And I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.